What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over Week 11's cash plays. So what this is your double ups, your 50-50s, and your head-to-heads. These are guys that you're going to want to target in your lineup. It's not a you have to. It's just this is what the field is going to be on. The ownership is going to be on. This doesn't mean these are the best plays, but they are your safer with a high ceiling plays. So obviously, there could be someone that scores more, and if you have him, you're ahead of the field. But if you get someone like Justin Fields, who the last 2 weeks, the field has been on 40%, and then I believe last week was 75 and up. So everyone was on him and highest quarterback, and if you didn't have him, it was pretty hard to cash. Now that doesn't mean that you couldn't have had other players that helped you, but that's just an example. So I'll go over each position. And I'll throw in a couple tournament plays of guys that I like, but mostly just cash. So Josh Allen, 8,500 against Cleveland. Obviously, the new venue of where they're playing in Detroit sold out quick, and it's expected that a lot of Buffalo Bills fans bought those tickets, so it's still a home game for Buffalo. So Josh Allen against a Cleveland team that is very, very their defense is very banged up right now. Even if they're not banged up, they have not played well. So Josh Allen, 8,500. Justin Fields at 7,600 against Atlanta. Atlanta's been better against the run than they have against the pass. But Justin Fields is one of those players now to where if you like Jalen Hurts, and remember Jalen Hurts last year for having an explosive year fantasy-wise, he didn't put up great numbers quarterback-wise. Fantasy-wise, he was a top 10 quarterback just because he was mobile. And that's how Justin Fields is. I mean, you go and look in his passing, and he has a passing touchdowns, which help. Passing yards, he hasn't thrown for over 200 yards, but week 5 against Minnesota, it's just the rushing yards. And I said it last week, and it still happened. I said, don't expect him to get 40-something points. And guess what? He gets 40-something points. He gets the rushing touchdowns. He gets the passing touchdowns. It's one of those things where you just play him until he doesn't play good. He's got another favorable matchup, so you play Justin Fields. We keep going down here. You get Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow. Both those guys in your mid-price range. I think both of them have good matchups. They're both good cash plays for me. And then you start to go down to your values. Daniel Jones against Detroit. Daniel Jones is almost the same thing as Justin Fields. No, don't get me wrong. He is not as athletic and mobile as Justin Fields, but he does run the ball. You look at some of his games, and he gets up there in rushing yards. He only has 8 passing touchdowns, so he's not a huge fantasy guy. Week to week, he's a boomer bust for the most part. But against Detroit, it's a very favorable matchup. And then Marcus Mariota, 5,500 against Chicago. Chicago, one of the worst teams against the run. Marcus Mariota is a quarterback, as you can see, that puts up some 20 points games. And this is a positive game for him. He's a little more risky, in my opinion. But he's still one of those plays. So that's it for quarterbacks for me. Running backs, Saquon Barkley, 8,900. It's very clear. He is that guy in New York. Continue to play him until he doesn't play well. You can go and look at some of his recent games and judge for yourself. But he's a guy that's putting up consistent fantasy points in a favorable matchup. Here, we continue to go down. Josh Jacobs against Denver. Everyone remembers the Week 4 game where he solidifies that he's the running back there. He's kind of dropped off in the last 3 weeks. Obviously, last week he gets a touchdown in the targets. If you look the 2 weeks before, nothing really crazy out of him, but you go for a hot hand there. We continue to go down. Ramondre Stevenson against the Jets. Even with Damian Harris back, it's still Stevenson's backfield until it's not. Damian Pierce, 6,500 though. He's the only really good, consistent thing on that Houston offense. You look at his numbers all year, and even with Burkhead getting snaps in, he's still putting up really good fantasy points. Now, this isn't, going to necessarily win or lose you, but it's going to help you. It's a safe play, and at 6,500, the price has risen, but it's still one of the more safe plays today. Cordell Patterson is another name for me. At 6,200, I know a lot of the field isn't on him, especially if you look last week. 5 rushing attempts, only 1 target against Carolina. but you're playing the Bears, who've been very bad against the run, and Cordell Patterson is playing his former team, as you would say. So Cordell Patterson, besides last week, is very utilized in both the pass game and run game. So at 6,200, I do like Cordell Patterson. And then David Montgomery with Khalil Herbert being out. So both running backs in that Chicago-Atlanta game. David Montgomery with Khalil Herbert being out now is the clear number one guy until Herbert returns. Ebner hasn't impressed me enough to really get and steal any volume there. So it's David Montgomery going to be utilized here in a very favorable matchup. Kenyon Drake, watch for the Gus Edwards news. He's a game time decision. If Gus Edwards is out, Kenyon Drake becomes a phenomenal play for me against Carolina at 5,900. Devin Singletary, 5,800 against Cleveland. Cleveland, one of the worst teams against the run and running backs for fantasy points allowed at 5,800 is another great play today. And then some other plays that you could throw in that I do like, and it's a 50-50, is Antonio Gibson, 56, Brian Robinson, 53. Playing against the worst team allows the most rushing yards to running backs. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, some good plays there. Look for that as well. Now, Najee Harris is a discount. He's a good tournament play for me. I know that Warren's getting work, and I totally understand and get that. But 5,500 for Najee Harris, I like him for a tournament play. Not cash, but tournament. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, 9,100. If you could somehow pay up to Justin Jefferson, if you're not paying up for a quarterback and running back and or tight end, and you want to pay up for wide receiver Justin Jefferson against that Dallas secondary, who they have moments of playing well, but they also have moments of just, going back to last year's secondary. So Justin Jefferson, I am totally willing to pay up for. Stephon Diggs against Cleveland. Greg Newsome is out. Denzel Ward has not played good this year. Stephon Diggs is a great play at 8,300. Another pay up. CeeDee Lamb at 7,500 is yet again another play. I will continue to play CeeDee Lamb all year. He is a safe play. You go and look at his game logs. He's a very safe play in fantasy. Has his best game of the year this year against Green Bay last week. And 7,500. I like that price. Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark is now healthy, which kind of helps Amon-Ra a little bit of just not being the full focus. Obviously, he is going to be focused. Last week against the Bears, 11 targets, 10 receptions, 119 yards. Doesn't get any touchdowns, but still gets you 25 DraftKings points. 7,200, I like that a lot. If you don't like the matchup against the Giants, which I totally understand, then T. Higgins for $100 cheaper is that play. T. Higgins going against Pittsburgh secondary, who has been very banged up, who has not played well in a huge division game without Jamar Chase. Everyone knows that. But T. Higgins at 7,100, it's a good play. With Tyler Boyd, almost the same thing there. We continue to go down. Courtland Sutton at 6,000 to me screams like the play. I'm going to be very upset if Russell Wilson and Courtland Sutton do not have a good connection here against Vegas. Obviously, you go and look at week 4, puts up 16.2 fantasy points against Vegas, but without, their wide receiver room is so banged up. And just get to it really quick and show you guys of how banged up their wide receiver room is. So obviously, Tim Patrick, unfortunately, couldn't play this year. KJ Hamler out. Jerry Jeudy out. Hinton questionable. Virgil, who had the 1 for 66 touchdown. But it's Courtland Sutton. Like, to me, he screams like he is the play today. And a very good price point at 6,000. Terry McLaurin against Houston. Stingley Jr. is out. He's probably their best man corner. The corners have played very well. Lovie Smith tries to help his corners as much as he can. So Terry McLaurin at 5,900 is a very good play for me today. I do like, this isn't a cash, this is a tournament / GPP play. Allen Robinson, 5,600 against New Orleans. New Orleans also very banged up defensively. Cameron Jordan out. Matt Stafford in. There's Lattimore's not playing. So Robinson has an opportunity with Cooper Kupp out to shine if McVay and Stafford allow him to. I just want them to allow him to. And then you go down. Darnell Mooney has a very good matchup today. I don't know if they want to throw the ball a lot with how Atlanta plays. Atlanta runs the ball. They kill the clock. They make your offense have to score in possessions. But if the Bears defense is able to slow down Atlanta and not allow them to have 6-7 minute drives every drive, Darnell Mooney at 5,400 is a very good play, as well as Brandon Cooks 5,400 against Houston's very bad secondary. We keep going down. Garrett Wilson at 4,900. Corey Davis is out. Elijah Moore has not been used that much. Against New England, it is a rougher matchup, but I mean, the Wilson to Wilson connection is there. So 4,900 is a very good price for a number one receiver by far. We go down even more. I like Nico Collins at 4,100 against Washington. That's probably the lowest that I'm going in targeting somebody. Obviously, the Rams wide receivers are in play. Skowronek and Van Jefferson, but I don't really like them for cash. Now for tight ends, Mark Andrews is expected to play 6,800, most expensive tight end. So that does change the slate a little bit. I figured he'd be out, but it looks like they might play him. Obviously, he's a guy that if he plays is playing good. If he's hurt, obviously he's not going to play good. But at 6,800, probably one of the safer tight ends when healthy. So if they play him, that means that he's healthy enough to play. We continue to go down, and there's a lot of value and a lot of plays at tight end this week. Nothing really stands out as like a must. There's just a lot of good plays. So Dalton Schultz, 4,300 against a very bad team that plays tight ends. 4,300, Pat Freiermuth. Yet again, a team that is pretty average, but you look at Freiermuth's targets since Pickett has been in, and it's George Pickens, Freiermuth. Those are the two guys for him. Obviously, Cole Kmet, 4,100, is just getting some huge fantasy points. 45 in the last 2 weeks is crazy. He's more of a tournament play for me. There's either Schultz or Freiermuth that I'm paying up for. Pay down for Tyler Higbee, even though he's going against. I said it, and it's one of those plays where I don't want to play him, but I might be trapped into getting some ownership of him today against the Saints, who have not allowed over 10 fantasy points to a tight end this year. Greg Dulcich, 3,800 against Las Vegas. Obviously a play for me. We keep going down. Hayden Hurst, 3,500 against Pittsburgh. I like that. And then Dawson Knox, 3,200 against Cleveland, I believe, is a play that everyone is looking at, especially for his price point at 3,200. Harrison Bryant, you just watch it. Njoku is out. And then the other play for a value for a tournament, if you have quite a bit of lines, play these Philly tight ends. I'd throw ownership in on both because you don't know what it's gonna look like for that tight end room. Seems like they're both getting a lot of snaps on that first team offense throughout the week. I'm not gonna go over defenses. If I had to pick a defense here, and this is for cash, in cash you don't really want to pay up for defense. It's just not worth it. If you pay $4,000 for defense and they only get you one fantasy point because they get slaughtered, it hurts your chances. So I'm picking the Steelers defense here. That defense plays better with TJ Watt in than out, and against a division opponent here. I'm not saying that Cincinnati can't and won't score, but we know how bad that offensive line is. We know how well the Pittsburgh edge rush is. So 2,300, that's my defense. So hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. If you guys want to join our Discord for any help in fantasy and DFS, that link will be in the comment or description. You can just click the link and join us. So I will see you guys in the next one.